Come on, people now. Smile on each other. Remember, we belong to each other. And many of us have forgotten. The planet has forgotten. The nation has forgotten. People in this church have forgotten. Come on, people now. The one that left us here is returning, and it is returning in consciousness. It's returning in action. It's returning in mindset. It's returning in actions that speak higher than the human ego, that speak higher than our need to be right or better than or to be justified. On that note, I tell you a story to begin our talk today. One Zen student said to his fellow students, the two other ones, he said, my teacher is the most enlightened. He's the best of the teachers. Why, he can go days without eating. The second said, I think you're mistaken. My teacher is the best teacher. He is the most enlightened. He has so much self-control, he can go days without sleeping. Well, the third student scratched his head, not quite understanding. He said, no, I think you're both mistaken. I think my teacher is the best. He is so enlightened and he is so wise that he eats when he's hungry and he sleeps when he's tired. So many people on this planet are working diligently on their spirituality, working on their spirits. And although religion in this world is waning, and it is waning quickly, spirituality is on the rise. People seeking ideas and ideals of a spiritual nature, it is growing and it is growing and it is growing. And this is a good thing. Everywhere you look, there are classes. Self-help classes, spirituality classes, classes on spiritual principle to help us discover long-forgotten truths so that we can come home and align with God once again. This is a really good thing, but something seems to be missing. The world does not seem to be getting any closer to the heaven that we seek as a result of our heavenly pursuits. Have you noticed that? All this spiritual seeking is going on, yet things on earth seem to be coming apart at the seams, pun intended. And the reality is, if you pull one thread of a prayer shawl, the whole thing comes undone. The knot at the end is vitally important to that shawl, holding the whole piece together. And you may feel that your part is insignificant, but the part that you hold, the consciousness that you hold, is the knot at the end. And if it comes unraveled, and we don't do our job as Unity students and as spiritual students, the whole thing comes apart. So that's how important you are. That's how important is the work that we do here. In fact, it appears to be getting farther and farther away. The heaven that we talk about, that we talk a good game about in all of our churches and synagogues and mosques, seems to be getting farther and farther and farther away. So today, what if we were to spend a little less time talking about spiritual concepts, religious theories, and we, forgive me for I have sinned, set God off to the side for just a moment and work on being better human beings? What if this platform was used to just say, let's become better human beings? To inhabit our skin. My challenge today is inhabit your skin, inhabit your life. What does it take to do that? Could it be, just consider, could it be that we are on earth, in that skin, in that life, at this time, with this group of people, at this moment, to experience the richness of just being a human being on earth? And in doing so, in inhabiting our skin and our lives, bring into congruity the spiritual ideals that we talk about all the time, to bring them down to earth and to implement them by just being good human beings. We can create alignment, can we? So don't tell anybody that the minister said, set God aside for a moment. In truth, our spirituality and our humanity are inseparable parts of a singularity, of a whole. They cannot be separated from each other. But I look at the people on the planet that are all esoteric, all in spiritual theory, that are doing very little on earth as a human being. My friend Paul over there, he's a trainer, and I've trusted him with getting me fit again. But have you ever seen those trainers? I don't think, probably not at Paul's gym, certainly, but the guys that work on their upper body And they get these massive shoulders and these massive biceps, kind of like Paul. But they never work on the lower body. Have you ever seen pictures of those guys? It's like this hunk of a truck sitting on these two little toothpicks. It looks odd. It feels odd. It looks weird. And we've all seen those people. Well, that's what we've done with our spirituality. We're up in the clouds with spiritual concepts, and we're building these great spiritual muscles, but we haven't worked on the lower dimensions. We have not worked on that which is necessary to fulfill our need on earth at this time, in this place, in that skin, and in that life. So we've got these skinny little legs and all this great spiritual knowledge that is not being applied because there is not the strength as a human being to apply it. We've forgotten that we are human. Sometimes spirituality can serve as a distraction. Have you noticed that? To getting things done on human earth? The spirituality is the great distraction so that we can feel good, but we're not doing good. We can feel good and we can talk a good game, and then rubber meets the road, something happens, and the skinny little toothpick legs are not strong enough to hold up the spiritual concept, and we fall down. We don't fulfill the calling of ourselves as Christed beings, as beings of light, as beings of goodness. Sometimes that is called spiritual bypass. Anybody ever heard that term? I'm sure you have. Spiritual bypass. We love and light and puppy dog and rainbow truth around that we're on earth, and sometimes bad stuff is happening. Sometimes difficult stuff is happening, and we spiritually bypass. We say, I'm going to pray it away. Well, prayer requires feet, or it requires strong legs so that the prayer can be implemented. Using spirituality as a means of inaction is happening to a great degree on the planet today. Spirituality as a means of not taking an action. This is what Oliver Wendell Holmes had to say about it. Please read this with me. Some people are so heavenly minded that they are no earthly good. Have you met those people? They're spiritual giants. And earthly, they're not doing anything. They talk a good game, but talk is cheap. What if for one moment we took spirituality out of the equation, just for one Sunday, because that's what we do here, and just talked about being good human beings? You don't hear ministers say that very often, but again, I was not going to rewrite this talk because I talk about what's up in the field, and it's up in the field of our consciousness collectively as a community here in Cobb County. But consider that a big part of your spiritual path, a big part, and a big chunk of it is just making the most of the laboratory that we find ourselves in. And what is that laboratory called? Earth. My daughter is in an accelerated, amplified nursing program. She's taking 2 or 3 years of nursing, and her dream is to be a nurse, and she's cramming it into short segments. And I'm so proud of her because she is acing the tests. I mean, it's a lot of knowledge. Anybody ever gone to nursing school? You got to know more than the doctors know. You better know more than the doctors know. I've been in the hospital before, and the nurses are the ones that heal you. But the reality is she's acing the tests, she's acing the homework, she has all the knowledge, she's doing all the reading, she has all the theory and the practicum in her head. She is the top of the class. And now she's into the clinical part of the teaching. And she was thrown into the midst of a hospital, and her first day of clinical in the laboratory of the hospital is in the trauma unit and then the emergency room. And the stress and the pressure and the tenseness in those environments, that which she knew beautifully when she had to take a test, it goes away. She's really, really struggling and going into a deep depression because she's not managing the stress of rubber meets the road nursing. And I'm saying we as spiritual beings are not meeting the test of rubber meets the road spirituality. Let's just call it like it is. I'll take ownership. I'm not meeting rubber meets the road spirituality by being in congruity humanly as I teach and as I speak and as I know to be true. There's a disconnect when rubber meets the road and you're in the clinical stress and pressure of being an earthly being. So today I'm saying we need to build that bridge. We need to somehow find the way to take spiritual concepts out of the textbook And there's a lot of textbooks that we read and put them into practical application. May my life be the Bible. The only Bible some people will ever read will be your life. What kind of read is it? The laboratory of our existence. We're not here by accident. The world as we know it today is full of pressure and full of stress, and a lot of spiritual people are either having a tough time implementing it, I'll cut them the slack, or they're just not trying because it's too much work. Enlightenment comes in wearing overalls and looks like putting on a pair of gloves and getting your hands dirty, and not all of us want to do that. So we walk around on our toothpick legs and we go, somebody else will make a difference. Somebody else will make the change. We've forgotten that we're not on earth by accident. It's a divine appointment, folks. There's a purpose to the human you. Not just a spiritual you, which is what we nurture here. There's a purpose to the human you. In fact, put your hand on your heart, and I want you to say that with me. There's a purpose to the human me. Together, there's a purpose to the human me. Now, I want you to take that to the deeper level and not just say words that I'm asking you to regurgitate. That's not what we do here. I'm asking you to feel what that purpose might be. And is it being lived or is it not being lived? Together, there's a purpose to the human me. Breathe that in. Accept that and receive that. All the spirituality aside, you have value as a human being. You are worthy as a human being. You are necessary as a human being. The world needs you to make the difference that only you can make. Jesus counseled us. We all know this teaching, and I speak it all the time. He said, be in the world, but don't be of it. Be in the world, but don't be of it. And we run as spiritual seekers, I do, to the last part of that counsel. I'm not in the world. I'm not defined by any of this. And we spiritually bypass. I am an enlightened spirit. And therefore, I will be above all this crap that's happening on earth. But I'm saying today, let's not rush to the second part of Jesus' teaching, and let's take the first part of his teaching and digest that. Be in the world. Say that with me. Be in the world. The world that we are co-creating right now because we are co-creators. Cells within the body of God manifesting the earthly existence that we are experiencing right now. It is in need. Look around. And I say, don't just look back to Friday. Go look back a decade ago. The world is in need, and the spiritual paths are not answering the call. Our religious systems are not answering the call. If religion had kept up with technology, the way technology has boomed, we wouldn't be having the divisions that we have today. We wouldn't have forgotten that we belong to each other. The people of the earth are needing something more than another pretty theory about God. And so many people in the unity movement are thinking, well, if I just was able to teach them about unity, then everything would be fine. But that's just another pretty theory about God. That's not what the world needs right now. What is it that the world needs? They need to be seen. They need to be heard. What the world needs more at this point in history are people willing to dig into their humanity and make an attempt. Just make an attempt in your anger, to make an attempt in your frustration to sit down and listen before passing judgment. To sit down and listen, to try to understand even when it is difficult. To acknowledge and to understand that there's another human being in skin, inhabiting their skin, trying to find their way home. No, it's easier to stand on the mountain and yell at them down in the valley. You're ignorant, you're stupid, you don't know what you're doing. But that's not what we do here. We come down off of our lofty spiritual high places, and we get down into the valley and say, I'm a human being, and I'm meeting a human being, and we don't agree. How can we find love between us? How can we find a greater capacity to know what is beyond our opinions, what is beyond our judgments, what is beyond our need to divide? I want us in this community to be among the ranks of people who are not just talking unity, but are creating it. Not just coming and feeling good on a Sunday morning, we're all one, and then going outside those doors and being pissed off and angry and judgmental and throwing mud at somebody else. That's not working for us, folks. Have you noticed that? It's not working. And there are people, the angry people in the world will call me a Pollyanna. But I tell you, I'll give you a practical application. I've tried throwing mud and being opinionated and being judgmental and being angry and being righteous and being right. It doesn't work. And there's nothing easy about the compassionate, soft, spiritual presence that is greater than all of this. There's something more powerful happening beneath the surface of the waves that we are experiencing on earth. I want to meet you at the level of what's underneath. And maybe the healing and the heaven that we seek is underneath those waves. I cannot meet you at the same level of consciousness that created the waves. Einstein said it. I must meet you at a deeper place. Stephen Covey wrote a self-help book entitled, and most of you in Unity churches have read it, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Those who were studying that book, do you remember what number 5 was? The habit, number 5, habit of a highly effective person. Let's see what Stephen Covey has to say here. Seek first, read it with me. Seek first to understand and then to be understood. Oh, I don't want to do that. How many? I don't want to do that. It's just easier and it feels good to just say, you're wrong, I'm right, let's get on with it. I need to have my way, you need to not have your way. How's that working for us, folks? It's not working. Maybe I can put my ears on. As the Buddha, I think it said at one point, I have 2 ears and 1 mouth. There's a reason for that. I need to put these to work before I pass judgment, before I condemn. This idea was positioned. It's not just a new idea. He wrote the book, I think, in 1989. We think, oh, it's a new concept. It's a new thought. There's nothing new about this idea. Let's go back to St. Francis. How many Catholics do we have in the room? St. Francis wrote one of the most beautiful prayers in the world. When you hear this line, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled, and there's a lot of people that want to be consoled right now, as to console, to be understood together as to understand. Oh, it's an ancient truth. Oh, wait, it goes back even farther than St. Francis. One of my favorite books in the beautiful book that is the Bible, in the book of James, chapter 1, we read this, my dear brothers and sisters, take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. We're preaching the same sermon that James preached, that St. Francis preached, that Stephen Covey preached, and yet here we still are, not keeping up with electronics and technology. Religion has not kept up. I'm not asking for an instantaneous, we catch up with technology, but I'm asking you to take one step in that direction. One step to suspending the judgment, to suspending the opinion and the attack, which may be justified. You may say it's absolutely justified. I'm not going to argue with that. We can argue over coffee. But I'm saying, let me put my ears on first. Consider that beyond all of our spiritual theories, there is a call from the depths of our collective humanity, our collective soul, to just listen to each other. In today's world, we're all so eager to have our opinion, our perspective, our thoughts, and our judgments to be at the forefront of every dialogue. And I was really grateful to see a gentleman I had not seen for a while in our church again. His name is John Hyatt, who came in. John Hyatt is the best listener I have ever seen on the planet, and he and I do not agree about many things. Yet he listens, and he makes me think. Because he listens as I talk, and he listens, I get clear about my position. And my position gets clear, not because he debated me or he fought me, not because he has a different opinion, but because the man met me at the level of the Christ. He met me at the level of letting me be heard so that I can work out my own stuff. Ego is grasping for the spotlight on this planet. Have you noticed that? Ego is grasping for the spotlight because we are scared. We are really scared. Let's get down to it. We are quivering and our knees are knocking with what's up and we don't know what to do. It's happening religiously. It's happening politically. It's happening emotionally with our knee-jerk responses. Well, I can walk into any restaurant right now and I can start a fight in a matter of 15 seconds. I could walk into Holy Grounds Cafe downstairs, and if I wanted to, I could start an argument and a fight where nobody's going to win in a matter of 10 seconds. Or I can go down and go, what is my job? To be a bridge builder, to channel the inner Christ, the inner John Hyatt, to channel the inner light that I am meant to be on the planet and seek to understand. All the teachings that we have about healing, we have a lot of healers. This place is crawling with healers. All the teachings about prayer, we have a solid prayer chaplain corps. All the teachings about what these ladies and Richard are doing when they make prayer shawls. All the ideas and theories of oneness require something first. What is it? Listening. 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 Have our opinions and our needs to be right blocked the very reality and the very healing that we are seeking? I'm going to tell you, I think it's a resounding yes. Thich Nhat Hanh counsels us this. Read this with me together. Compassionate listening is to help the other side suffer less. If we realize that other people are the same people as we are no longer angry at them. You see, this is not just about me healing my own suffering, my own scared child. It is about healing the scared child on the other side of the table, on the other side of the equation. And there's nothing easy about it. But no one ever promised when you came into a Unity church that it was going to be easy. And when you can heal yourself and the other side of the table, we have maybe a little more possibility of healing the divide that is defining our country. It's defining our humanity. When I look with compassionate eyes and not judgmental eyes, I can be a conduit for alleviating the suffering of the world. One of the greatest gifts that we can give is our undivided attention. Think how it makes you feel. Think of somebody in your life who absolutely gave you their undivided attention without the need to push back, to fight against, to judge, or to resist. It feels good. It's like a prayer shawl put upon your shoulders. That's the gift that we need to give each other. That's the gift that we need to give the human race today. Set aside all the teachings of affirmations and denials and heavenly matters, and consider what the world needs right now is attention, understanding, and listening. These things do not require agreement. They do not indicate approval. I want you to breathe that in. Listening does not mean tacit approval, but it means meeting at a deeper place beyond my need to judge you or to attack you. It does require that I set down my judgments and replace them with a sincere desire to compassionately know your story. Here's the path to evolution as I played with it this week. Listen. Hear a story. And from the story, maybe a little bit of understanding. And then from understanding, maybe healing can happen. And when there's a healing, then oneness. The oneness that we seek might be a reality. That's a long journey. Take one step at a time. Listen to the story with the purpose of understanding and healing and finding oneness. I'm going to invite the band to come back up. I've had a dream for a very long time, and I swear I could make millions of dollars doing this. Since I was 15, I knew that the world needed to be listened to, and I said, I want to come up with an 800 line. 1-800-I-LISTEN. People just call you, and you don't have to say anything. You don't have to do anything. You just have to listen, and people will pay for that. I think we could pay off the mortgage of this church if we just started listening to each other. Marianne Blackford agrees, so when Marianne speaks, people listen. Let's become a 1-800 line for each other. And go, I don't understand you. I don't understand how you came to that opinion. I don't understand how you could do that or do that, but I'm going to sit in the uncomfortableness of listening to you because you're important enough to me. I came across, preparing for this talk, something I'd never heard before. It's called the Human Library. Anybody ever heard of it? Started in Denmark. Don't judge a book by a cover. This was on their website. In 2000, it aims to address people's prejudices by helping them talk to those they would not normally talk to or meet. Look it up. Please look it up, because I believe it's not a churchy thing. It's not a religious thing. It's a human thing. It calls humanity to challenge the stereotypes by hosting events virtually and on location. The organization uses a library analogy of lending people rather than books. Rather than checking out a book, you check out a person and have a conversation with them. Next slide, please. Let's read this together. Every human book represents a group in society that is often subjected to prejudice, stigmatization, judgment of discrimination because of their lifestyle, diagnosis, belief, disability, appearance, social status, ethnic origin, life circumstances, etc., etc., etc. There's a long list of how we have divided ourselves with labels. The Human Library is trying to say, let's sit down, folks, and let's get to know each other. You can check out a Muslim, a Christian, a Taoist, a Hindu, a Jew, or an atheist. You can check out a right-wing Republican. You can check out a left-wing Democrat, or you can check out an independent. Come have coffee with me, because that's where I sit, in the middle. Nobody's happy with me. Everybody's trying to pull me. You can check out someone with autism, someone with Down syndrome. You can check out somebody with a physical limitation who's deaf or blind. You can check out a recovering alcoholic or a current alcoholic. Before you judge them, get to know them. Crawl into their skin as you crawl into your own. You can check out somebody who's been in jail or somebody who is currently in jail. A homeless person, someone who has modified their body with tattoos and piercings, a soldier, a refugee, a black, a Hispanic, a white, an Asian, or a person of mixed race. You can check out a gay man or a gay woman. You can check out a transgender man or woman, and you can check out a non-binary person. Most of the population doesn't have any concept of what non-binary means. Well, then go to the library, check them out, and say, I want to know you more. I want to know your story more. That's what will create unity and oneness, not my pretty theories that fall apart when I walk out the door. You can check out someone who was abused or neglected as a child. You can check out someone who grew up poor or wealthy, somebody who is poor, or somebody who is wealthy. You can check out somebody who has had an abortion. And you can check out somebody who is adamantly opposed to it. But until we sit down and have a conversation, and we're just happy with our judgments on the other side, I have people on both sides of this equation in this church, close friends. Every one of them is kind and is doing what they think is morally right. But these are good people. And I want to sit down and find out how you came to that opinion. And maybe there is healing in the midst of the firestorm. Maybe there's an understanding and a bipartisan agreement, a bi-religious agreement, a bi-human-to-human agreement that can emerge when we quit just throwing mud at each other in our anger. It requires listening. It allows us to meet people as people. I'm going to leave you with this idea. I would love to think that Unity North is a laboratory where we can prove these concepts, but I'm just going to get real. We have fallen short. I have fallen short. But we're not defined by falling short or our mistakes. We are only defined by where we are going together, collectively. We belong to each other, and these are concepts that the world needs now more than ever. Just because we don't always hit the mark doesn't mean that we quit trying, and there's nothing easy about it. The last 2.5 years, it would have been really easy for me to say, I can't do this anymore, and I got really close. Not going to happen. I'm going to go be like my parents and my family and isolate myself and just be happy in my little protected world, but I'm not called to do that. Any one of you could get up and leave with what I say or what we do here or what we sing. You can get up and leave, but you're in the room. You're in the room. And I'm saying, capitalize on your strength and your courage to be in the room and to be uncomfortable and to let your knees knock and be a scared child and meet the scared child on the other side of the table and go, let's figure this out. There's a song in the Unity hymnal that we're going to take into meditation. It's a song I really don't like much, but this week it seemed really appropriate. It's called Weave. How many Unity students know the song Weave? I used to sing Heave, Heave. But this song is now more relevant than it has ever been to me. And I experienced the depth of what weave means. I'm transcending my ignorance when I was saying heave, heave. Take a deep breath. Let's put those words up on the screen, and I'll leave. Actually, let's put the one more quote. One more quote, but go back. Sebastian. Let's read this together. The moment one gives close attention to anything, even a blade of grass, it becomes a mysterious, awesome, indescribably magnificent world in itself. Everyone here, no exceptions, is a mysterious, awesome, and magnificent world. Holy, beautiful, and sacred. Do I always understand the thoughts of your mind or the feelings of your heart? No, I do not. But I need to look to the mysterious world that you are, and in that, somehow the healing we seek as we put our ears on and set aside our judgments can and will happen. Okay, now let's sing this song. Weave us together. Black, white, blue, green, yellow, purple. We are a rainbow. On this Pride weekend, our Pride month, we are a potpourri of different opinions and ideas. And I refuse to play the game of division anymore.